Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. Today's prompt in my Advent art journal is called Ocean. So I decided to go with a little mermaid. First I'm taping the edge of my page off so I don't spill over onto the next page, but in the end I do manage to get paint on that page anyway. But that's okay, that's how I roll. So as a jumping off point, just to get the picture in my mind straight, I started with a bit of an ombre effect. So I'm starting with a darker blue at the bottom and then I'm working it up to a lighter blue at the top, because obviously the sun is coming in from the top, so the water there would be a little bit lighter. I'm just going in and blending colors together. I am using my Amsterdam acrylics. And I'm giving it off, I'm drying it off well before I go in with my stenciling. I'm going to go in with my tiny circle stencil from Art by Marlene's Advent Calendar for 2023. This is my absolute favorite stencil. Actually, it's one of my absolute favorites. And I'm just going in with blue. Again, I'm starting off with darker tones of blue, and then I'm working it up to lightest at the top there. Popping paint down with my finger very roughly, and then I'm putting the stencil over the top and wiping it away with a wet wipe or a baby wipe, whatever you like to call that. I'm drying the layers in between, because with this reductive stenciling technique, or ghosting technique as they call it, it is important to keep your layers dry, so when you wipe off the top layer you won't disturb the layer that's underneath there. I'm also making sure I'm laying my stencil down every time at a different angle and not lining up with the circles at the bottom there, except for the top here. I managed to not do that, but I do come in and fix that a little bit later. It's funny, when I look back into my journals, blue pops up quite a lot in my pages, and the funny thing is pink is my favorite color, not really blue, but I do tend to use blue so much in my journals. I would like to know in the comments below, what is your favorite color to create with, or what do you notice happening in your journals when you page through? What is the kind of predominant color that you use? It would be interesting to hear from you. While you're making a comment, please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so. So this color that I put on now, it's called I think ultramarine or something like that, from Iris acrylic, and it was actually feeling a bit too white on the page, so I do go in with my fluorescent blue paint and I just smudge over the top a bit just to make it a little bit bluer. I also went in with my fluorescent purple, and I really love that I did this. It just brought the colors to life and added a little bit of an interesting pop of color that you wouldn't really expect in an ocean scene, but I really loved how that came out. When I'm done doing the reductive stenciling, I'm going to take my makeup sponge and I'm going in and doing normal stenciling. Again, working with my darker color first, and then I'm working up to lighter colors. Now I grabbed my mermaid, which I've taken out much earlier because I wanted to kind of get an idea of what I'll be doing. And I'm just going to keep bringing her back into the page to see where I'm going to place her and how I want the colors in the background to be and how far it should extend underneath her so you can still see it. I have a tip for you. For when you're taking out your paper elements, make sure you pop them into a little container, because some of these things can be quite tiny and they tend to disappear while we're working with them. So often I've got things floating around my desk and then I lose little bits. But I have realized if I pop them into a container and keep them safe, then that won't happen. In between, I'm also going in with a little bit of mark making with my paintbrush. Just building up those layers and the colors until they are at a space where I feel happy with them. I really like how this mark making kind of added a little bit of a magical sparkle to the page. Now I've decided to go in with white. I did end up mixing the first layer of white with a little bit of blue, and it didn't really make a difference. So I switched to my smaller dot stencil, and then I cleaned my sponge off a little bit, and now I'm going in with white. I'm doing 2 layers because I want the stencil to shifting the position so the dots aren't all in lines. And I really liked how those little dots brought that area into to life and just made such a difference, made it really look really magical. Then I decided it needed a little bit of sparkle, so I'm using Marlene's stencil paste on my sponge, and I'm sponging through my stencil, and it really left such a lovely shimmer and dimension. As you can see, I don't often clean my stencils, clearly, but when using stencil paste, it is important to clean them off because it's like a glue and it will ruin the stencil. Okay, now I'm going on with this florally, corally looking stencil. I'm so sorry, I don't know what the name is. If you know, please make sure to leave it in the comments there so other people can know what to look for if they're looking to get one. And I'm just adding a little bit of pattern, again doing the reductive stenciling with a darker color, and I'm stenciling through the stencil with my fluorescent purple. I really love how the background came out, and I was actually a little bit sad when I put the mermaid over. Maybe I'll do it again on another page one day. Okay, now I'm going to start fiddling about with all of the elements that I took out of my Art by Marlene Golden Oldies Paper Elements book. And there's a little bit of shuffling about going on. I'm trimming off some of the edges because some of the edges were just too bulky. I'm taking my craft knife and just cutting the in-between bits out where it wasn't completely die cut out of the book. What I really love about Marlene's Paper Elements book this time is that the elements don't have a white border, so you really don't need a lot of trimming. Okay, now that I have a little bit of an idea of what I wanted, not that it stays that way when I put them back on again, but it's okay. I've decided to take out this little mermaid stamp, and in it, it has these beautiful leafy fronds, and I'm just going in and patting paint on with my finger, and I'm stamping the paint off. I continued stamping, making ghost prints of that same stamp. And again, now I'm cleaning my stamp off really well so that acrylic paint doesn't sit on my stamp because it will ruin it. Then I take the other little stamp, and I think I go in with a pink paint pen here. I'm just rubbing it onto my glass mat, putting the stamp in, and now I'm stamping it off onto the page. I really like how this pink showed up. It was subtle, but you could still see that there was a difference. I did the same. I used the same branch again with my purple paint, and then I went in also with my black archival ink later on. First I put it away, and then I decided, nope, I need black, so I had to take it out again. Excuse me. I'm always drying my layers in between and holding down my elements so they don't fly away. And here I go with my black ink, and that just adds a little bit more depth and interest to the bottom of the page. This page could have easily stayed just like this. I think it would have looked perfect without all of the extra bits at the bottom. But I did take out the elements, and I thought, well, they are out, so I'm going to use it. Whenever I don't use an element, I just pop them back into my book and leave them there for a later stage. If they start falling out, or if I feel like they're getting a bit of a problem, I will put them into a container. I did remove the tape before I start sticking down my elements, just to make sure I know where the border is. And as I'm busy playing with the elements, I am taking out a couple more, shuffling around. I definitely wanted her to have a friend, so I did take out a little crab, and then I decided, no, I like the snail better. So this is now called an underwater snail, even though it's probably not in real life, but in my journal, it is an underwater snail. The snail was getting a bit lost at the bottom there, so I figured I need to give him something to sit on. And Marlene has the stack of suitcases in her book, and I just cut the top one off. So there's a spot for my snail, and then I'm adding some bubbles. And once I'm ready to glue things down, I'm putting glue behind, but I'm not bringing the glue out all the way to the edges, because I know that I want to be able to lift the edges so I can put the elements underneath, so I can tuck things behind. While I was fiddling with the placement of my elements at the bottom there, I did pause the video for a minute there just to try and figure out how I want it. And I also looked for a quote in the sticky quote book, because I often find finding a quote for a page can sometimes take longer than making the actual page. Now, obviously don't want you guys to be watching me look through the book. Okay, now I'm putting some sparkles back onto my page. First I did the snail shell, and I'm actually really sorry that I did that. I really don't like the way the shell came out at the end, but I do love the way her hair came out after I added the stencil paste from Art by Marlene into her hair, and also into the scales on her tail. I forgot to put the bubbles down, so I'm just sticking them down. And then I'm going to go into that little shell and add some detail, but I really don't like how it came out. I actually did think afterwards maybe I should just try and find another shell in the paper elements book that's maybe a little bit more of a seashell that I can put on that little friend, and then it will be a sea snail. And I'm going in with black, and then I'm going in with some paint pens and doing dots, because it had dots on before, so I was just going over those dots. You can still see the dots underneath the stencil paste. Now I'm going to start faffing with adding white and black highlights. I'm adding some neon green and yellow detail into the coral, I guess, sea plants, seaweeds at the bottom there. And I'm adding in some black line work and detail work. Making little scribbles in her hair. I do come in later with my black paint pen as well to just darken up those lines, because I found that that black was not quite black enough. I love seeing how the elements come to life when I put the white highlights back into them. Obviously some of the lines on her tail got covered up when I did the stencil paste, so I'm just adding those back in again. And now I'm going in with my Stabilo All pencil, and I'm imagining the sun is coming from the top, obviously, because that's the surface of the water. So she would have a shadow beneath her and the bottle, and she'll have a shadow underneath her hair. And then I also go in where I had the little, let's call it the seabed, where all the coral and the sea plants are. And I'm also darkening the bottoms, so still imagining that the sun is coming from the top there. I don't think I've ever done a page with a mermaid on, so I was very happy to have this prompt, and I was very happy to be using one of Marlene's gorgeous little mermaids. I did take out another one, but she was a bit small for the page, so I chose to take this one out instead. So now you can start seeing the dimension at the bottom of the page there. You can see that things are sitting on top of each other, and it's not just like a blob of color, but there are separate elements. A little bit more detail with black pen, trying to fiddle a bit more with that shell that I still don't love, but I did like it better after I put the black paint pen on. And I'm darkening up the lines in her hair as well, just defining them. And I love putting pearls in the hair of my girls. So I popped a couple of white dots with my paint pen on, and a crown. And I'm going to color the crown with a little bit of a gold paint pen. I'm not going over the highlights and the shadows. I'm just doing the kind of mid-tone in the gold there, just to add some sparkle, and also on her little snail friend at the bottom. And then I'm going to go in with my quote. I think it said, I catch dreams and they catch me, and dreams catch me. And I thought it was cute because she had that little message in the bottle, and I thought that maybe she's got somebody's dream there in her bottle. I'm also doing a shadow around the letters there to make them feel like they belong. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.